definitely.
Is that real?
That's from your...
Totally out of context, by the way. But yes, that's real.
Stop upsetting Venruki production.
All right, whatever.
Man.
Game's starting.
All right.
It's Nagran,
okay. Well,
baby.
it's game number 1 on Nagran. Oldness Strikes versus Blastwave Bros.
I'm so excited for this series.
I'm
always so excited. This is what Hannah has to go through whenever I'm not on the cast. I just have to do this at Hannah, and she's just like, stop. Well, there we go. Wings already being used from Ratapai right away. Whoa, Kara taking a huge amount of damage out of nowhere. That was the combust. That was huge damage from them. They're not committing anything besides the earthen wall, it seems. Not even the wall. Horrify goes out on the Tana. Full polymorph to follow it up. Kara sees the writing on the wall, and he's getting out of line of sight. Big flash of lights hitting him. Gonna top him off out of line of sight for now, but that go really didn't accomplish a whole lot, even though it was super scary.
All right, Frosty the target here, stunned up, double stun. How much damage? They hex the mage. Beautiful setup by Oldness Strikes, but even still not going to get a dispersion from Frosty. It's a bit devastating here. Frosty's now finally taking some damage, but it's a little bit late. Maybe late is better than never. They get fade. Void Eruption. Frosty wants to turn this around. Tana pre-flesh crafting all the crowd control. Nice play from Tana there, right as he saw that Void Eruption cast. It's a big damage from the Shadow Priest. Now it's over. They silence. They try and power through. Carr instantly sanctuaried that silence. They swap to Ratapai, punishing him for pushing it into midfield. Huge swap to Ratapai. Not netting too much, though. I think Frosty got a Mass Dispel and gripped him to safety. Now Mind Games in the Ret Paladin with a Polymorph. This is the scariest moment in the game as a Ret Paladin. Will Kara be able to stabilize while Mind Games is up for one more second? Stunned up. Spirit Link Totem comes through from Tana. I think that's a good, respectable trade, as that was the scariest moment in the game, really. Now there will be no Mind Games for the Combustion. Kara can heal himself back up. Trying to stay on target here on the Shadow Priest. They're going to use Blessing and Protection, a bit overlapped with the Greater Fade. Swapping over to Livin for a moment, stunning Ratapai. Holding that Storm Bolt, just chopping up Livin for a moment. Perhaps they're going to retreat, wait for their medallions. Kara looks a bit reluctant to cross the center line of the... There's like an invisible line that Frosty drew, like you can't cross this. And Kara's just stuck behind the line, not wanting to push in, but also not retreating. It's costing Tana a bit of mana to hold that position. Finally going back to the pillar for now. Nerd Rage left out in the open. You're gonna swap to him, maybe? Doesn't look like it. Now they're pushing forward. Grounding Totem to protect. Kara, he's going back and forth. Maybe he doesn't. Going after Frosty. Stuns him. Gets trinketed by Frosty. That seemed a bit unnecessary, but they're trying to turn it around. Kara wraps around the corner. Sanctuary out of the silence. It's a huge amount of damage in just a 1 second period of time. Livin's Combustion really getting value here. You can tell that Blastwave Bros are more than ready coming into the competition as a newly formed roster here in 2021, running similar composition to Method EU, well, exactly the same composition as Method EU previously. Now, can they perform to the same level?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's looking good. Mind Games is going to land. They have a Dispel, immediately Dispel. The full Hammer of Justice. Kara in some trouble here. Do they have the damage to back it up? He goes down to 1% health. Are you kidding me? Kara holds on. That is unbelievable greed. Could have easily gone down in that situation, but he will survive. But I really like what they just did. Frosty throws over a Mind Games. Tana says, okay, well, Mind Games is up. That's the scary moment. I'm going to dispel that. And then when he dispels it, full Hammer of Justice for Kara. Cannot dispel it. If Livin had Combustion in that situation, Kara would have been absolutely deleted. So I like the setups coming in from Blastwave Bros. They're really showing that they know what they want to do in this matchup. Ratapai's full mana, just been sitting for drinks, and this is looking better and better for Blastwave Bros.
As a Ret Paladin, when you're that low and you see a Mass Dispel like coming down on top of you at like a sliver of health, it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game, where you just know that when you're dealing with a Shadow Priest or a Priest in general who's good at getting those Mass Dispels when the bubble is forced, and maybe it's forced right here, right now. Tana gonna go ahead and shrink it, keeping Kara okay, but I know that that's in the back of his mind the whole time, is that if Frosty's not being pressured, that bubble is as good as gone whenever they make that offensive pressure, when they make that offensive go. Frosty on the back foot now, getting chunked down to half health. Ratapai popping the wings for the throughput, keeping them nice and safe. I like that Frosty's positioning himself in a way where, hey, if you want to come and hit me, you have to be out in the middle of the map. I need to be able to cast on you. The freedom's constantly being used by Ratapai to make it sure that his DPS can get in a good position. Ring of Frost now available for Frosty, but he's not going to take advantage of it. Instead, he's just going to trade the dispersion here, as his healer was in that CC, but I feel like he can afford to do that. I really do.
Let's see if he can continue to afford to do it. Moving forward now as dampening starts. Frosty's still the target. Car's trying to retreat back to the pillar. They're trying to get ready for the crowd control engagement, which could occur at any time here in the next 30 seconds. Combustion comes up too. That's going to be perfectly lined up, but they're on defense at the moment. Stunned up. Frosty grips Living back. Nerd Rage leaps in to stop the drink from Ratify. That was the difficulty of this composition, was stopping the drinks. So will they be able to maintain a mana advantage deeper into dampening? Currently tied up at 3%. They're getting cut down. Combustion comes up. Silence is coming up. This is going to be a very scary moment with no medallions on any member of the team. Blastwave Bros could also just choose to drink if Oldness Strikes wants to retreat during this cooldown window. This could be devastating for Oldness Strikes. They're getting ready. They've already blasted Kara down to half health without even utilizing crowd control. Are they going to push for it? Kara's charging in. Still no medallion for 17 seconds. They're chopping up Frosty. Kara's charging in. Hammers down on Ratify. Stormbolt on Frosty. They're trying to go for the kill maybe. Kara pulls back to the pillar. Maybe he's trying to bait an engagement here, but they're not falling for the bait. Tana goes for the Fleshcraft. Drops a Wind Shear. Drops the grounding on the Poly. Frosty's falling a bit behind. Blessing of Protection comes through. He's fine. Void Eruption. This is when Frosty wants to get going. Poly on the Shaman. Stun on the Ret. Big damage here. Potential mind games, but Divine Shield is now available. Kara gonna line of sight the Combustion, wait for that to be over, then make his push. And now with Divine Shield available, I mean, Oldness Strike stalled. They did exactly what they needed to do. They kept Ratify's mana like somewhat not topped off while surviving to their next row of cooldowns.
Yeah, now they're just going to be going after Livin in the matchup, denying him resetting that Combustion. I like the way Kara is playing this. It's like very calculated. He moves in, he moves out. As soon as a go he thinks is going to happen, he's already pre-positioning and running away. Right now, just throwing in some hammers. He does not want to overextend. He does not want to force Tana in a bad spot. And just kind of allowing Nerd Rage to be the one that kind of goes for most of the damage on Frosty. And we'll see it, and we are seeing it from Kara. Just wanting to make sure he's near that pillar. 13% dampening at this point of the game. Tana actually a little bit behind on mana. Kara going to be moving forward. Who are they going after? Hammer of Justice lands. He trinkets immediately. He's not messing around whatsoever. This was not even the Combustion, so now with no trinket available, Kara's going to have to be careful. Hammer of Justice lands on Ratify. They're just going for it. Oldness Strikes. They want to get something going. Polymorph lands on Tana. Kara immediately ducking behind the pillar, keeping himself alive. They could make a swap on Nerd Rage. He has to be very careful. Kara kind of playing backup here, trying to throw in some off heals if he can. And it seems like Oldness Strike stabilized, and now they're going to continue this assault and just deny Ratify from drinking. And if they can continue to hold on, weave in their defensive cooldowns, stop Ratify from drinking, they have a clear win condition in this game.
All right, Mind Games has gone out, and Kara knows it. He needs to get out of line of sight. He's going to pop that wall as well, and he's just not messing around. Why mess around? He's going to catch that Dispel, but here we go. Polymorph onto Tana, and Kara's just sitting in that earthen wall. He is not going to go out just yet, but here we go. Polymorph coming back up, reconnecting on the Livin'. And one thing I wanted to know, Kara might just go down. He's going to have to use that block to, but the Massive Spell on the bubble as well. Die by the sword from Nerd Rage on top of all of that, I guess, for the intervene. But every single time that Combustion pops, it seems like they get a button. And if they can continue to do that, going deeper into dampening, it's going to be a problem. Livin' now on the back foot, dropping down. He still has that Cauterai. He still has block, and he's going to use it. He's going to sit in that block. But it gets shattered off. He's in trouble. DB goes out onto both the DPS to stop the executes. Ring of Frostfall. And the Bop gets purged as well. This could be it for Livin' It. But Kara now!
Spirit Link comes through just in the nick of time here. Nerd Rage able to get to Kara's side. Almost all their defensives have been blown through. Mana has finally been whittled down. It's do or die for Oldness Strikes. Do they have enough damage to pull off a win before Blastwave Bros can close it out? Livin breaks out of the Stormbolt, popping that Blazing Barrier. Kara getting destroyed by Frosty, trying to get back to the pillar. Tana's in a full Polymorph. Is he going to trinket out of a full Polymorph? Nerd Rage on the target. Ratify on the right. Shadow Crash comes in from Frosty. Kara's trying to heal up. They could swap the Tana, maybe. They've got Hammer of Justice coming up in 2 seconds. If they can stop the Sanctuary. They're hitting Tana a little bit, just softening him up, trying to spread damage. Triple Dragon's Breath from Livin. Intervene, reflect on Kara, trying to stall and buy time. Ratify in a stun, Stew or Die here. Kara activating the Avenging Wrath, trying to go for the kill, but gets intercepted and takes a huge hit, but then equally so a massive heal coming in from Tana just to stabilize. As was Alter Time from Livin. He's back. He's blinking away, trying to get away from Kara. A blink again. Frosty out midfield. They could swap to Ratify. He's got no Divine Shield. Is this it? The miracle swap to Ratify. They need a Hammer of Justice. Where is it? Do they have it? They're going back to the Mage. They don't want to risk it. Double Dragon's Breath, dicey game for both teams here. It is coming down to the wire. Kara stunned up, Tana trinkets out. Grounds the incoming crowd control, but that was a trinket on a stun. He's on Polymorph TR now. He could get full Polymorph. Livin blinks in. Tana line of sights it. Livin gets storm bolted and punished, gets gripped away. Nerd Rage leaps over, pummels the Master Spell. They're cracking down on Livin here. Both teams working on fumes. They finally ran Ratify out of mana. If they can stay on target, Ratify can't heal anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing left. I mean, Livin still no ice block for 3 minutes. At the same time, Kara very susceptible to being taken down. Tana, there's no trinket. Can he keep alive? He just needs to keep alive a little bit longer. Divine Toll comes in. Livin getting absolutely devastated. Frofsy in prime position to kind of back up his team. Ratify, this is it. There's the Cauterize. Can they take him down? He's so low. They proc the seed and they crush it. Oldness strike back. Very patiently played by their team, but this good rotation of defensive cooldowns, no major overlaps, good consistent damage will get them the win on the Grand Arena.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Someone really smart predicted that Oldness Strikes was going to take this series. So this is just no surprise to me whatsoever. No, but I do want to shout out one thing. Ratify actually, I think he bubbled like aggressively there. Not the last go, but the second to last go, because he kind of saw the writing on the wall. He can see his mana bar. He knows that they need to get a kill and they need to get it fast, because the consistent pressure is going to be in Oldness Strikes' favor when you get this deep into dampening. And I mean, at this point, it still can go either way, because Kara's Word of Glories don't heal either, right? So this was a really impressive game by Oldness Strikes, in my opinion. I felt like they did a good job rotating through their defensive cooldowns, and Blastwave Bros, they are no pushover on the Shadow Priest Fire Mage. But I don't know. I feel like maybe they need to play a little bit more aggressive. The clock is not on their side.
All right, well, game number 1, victory from Oldness Strikes. Best of 5 series, loser knocked out of the tournament. David, do you feel like this is going to be 3-0 then, based on how that game number 1 went?
I'm less familiar with what other compositions Blastwave Bros have available to them. I know Jamie is on this roster as well. Guy is well known for being an expert on the Shaman. Ratify also showing a pretty decent diversity of healers to choose from. I think they could pull something out of their back pocket that can address this cleave composition, but theoretically that double wizard composition should be able to deal with it as well. It seems like a matchup that I guess is closer than I originally thought. I want to also point out that I feel like Shadow Priest Mage is one of those compositions where it isn't something that you can just kind of jump on and immediately take the composition advantage. And I feel like you need a little bit more synergy to set up those goes on that composition. There's a lot less consistent pressure and a lot more setup oriented burst that they need to synergize with. And with like a shaman like Tana, who's going to be constantly shearing and grounding to get through. You have to get through Sank. You have to get onto Kara, who's notoriously a rep paladin who will like save his steed to get behind the LOS, which is very unlike the tunnel vision rep paladins you see elsewhere, me included. So it's a hard comp to get through. They're kind of like a wall it's difficult to break through when played well.
All right, it looks like Blastwave Bros also locked in Tolver on Arena here. Now Oldness Strikes choosing their composition. Given this map stupidity, do you feel like this game number 2 is a little bit more favored towards Blastwave Bros?
100%. I feel like Blastwave Bros can't win on Tolveron. They're not winning the series.
Yeah.
There's no way. Because they're going to have to win on one of the smaller maps like Hook Point or Dalaran. So I also think they could just use Ellie Mage if they wanted to instead of Shadow Priest Mage. I feel like Ellie Mage is a little more forgiving than Shadow Priest Mage in terms of getting disrupted. Like it's tough to disrupt just Ellie burst damage as opposed to Shadow Priest crowd control is kind of predictable. You know the moments in the game you're going to die. Whereas Ellie sometimes you know, but you don't know at the same time. There's just a lot more burst damage. I feel like Ret Paladins are generally more afraid of Ellies too. So I would like to see Jamie come in for Blastwave Bros at some point and just run that Ellie Mage composition. Oldness Strikes are taking their time, so I think they're probably considering an Unholy DK pick on the big map.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I mean, what else would they be running the clock down for other than that? I mean, they've done.
Mind games, baby.
I mean, maybe they're talking strategy too. They could be talking like what targets. They've got a lot of data now between Skillcapped EU playing as well. So they're going to go with the Ret Warrior. They saw like Ellie Shaman took a lot of damage if they lock that in. Blastwave Bros could easily not change anything, but based on the strength of Ellie Mage, I feel like it's a better matchup. I would be most afraid of Ellie Mage. I feel like Method EU would play Ellie Mage if they had Ellie Mage. They wouldn't play Shadow Priest Mage. So Blastwave Bros are going to stay with the Shadow Priest Mage, but I don't think it's guaranteed. I don't think it's guaranteed.
For Blastwave Bros?
For Blastwave Bros, even though it should be. I don't think it is.
Yeah. Why do you say that? Just because how they've been playing?
Yeah, I think Tana, the way Tana plays with his team and gets aggressive with Fleshcraft, and then they go for hexes on the mage during their burst, I feel like it's really tough to deal with. So the Rattapie is going to need to drink. Blastwave Bros, I think, should just get ready for a long game. All these big maps are going to be a long game with double Spellcaster into Ret Warrior. It's just not favorable for the Shadow Priest to run on the pillar and get attacked, and it's not favorable for the Ret Paladin to run out in the open and get attacked. So both teams kind of stalemate for a while in a matchup like this. But I don't know. I think without that Ellie Shaman burst damage, that Blastwave Bros might struggle in this matchup.
I like.
So do we feel like it's a mistake that they locked in this composition here?
I would have brought Jamie in, I think, if I was on their
All right.
team. I also think Method EU had Ellie Mage available. They would have played Ellie Mage and not Shadow Priest Mage.
Well, I think one of the really
So-
rough things here for Blastwave Bros is they may have been baited into like a false sense of confidence because Method won. But the thing is, Method, every single one of their games was really close. Like every game they could have easily lost. So although it was a 3-0, it wasn't one of those blowout 3-0s. It was every game hard fought, kind of came down to like a 60-40. It really could have gone either way. And now Oldness Strikes actually has a lot of practice in this matchup as well. They just had a series against Method EU, lots of wargaming, so to speak, and maybe Blastwave Bros is trying to, find their footing and trying to figure out a strategy that will uniquely work to them. But certainly not an easy matchup. This big map should help them, but Oldness Strikes so far is looking really, really good. I'm looking to see Kara play really, really patient in this matchup once again, kind of pick his moments to push in and make it really difficult for Blastwave Bros to actually target him.
Yeah, speaking of Kara's patience, he's running this build that's very like one-shot oriented. He's running Final Reckoning, which you might see some paladins, run a longer wings talent instead of this. But Final Reckoning, what it does is it basically increases the amount of damage holy power spenders do. So it basically sets you up for huge burst windows. And because Kara's out in the open, not as often as he would want to be, these small windows are really taken advantage of by a talent like that. And he's also even going Divine Purpose in anticipation of those lucky procs, but also because he knows he's not going to be able to get the momentum to get the alternative. But here we go, attacking Frosty right away, as Frosty is the closest one, and constantly acknowledging what their positioning is the name of the game as this double melee. He sees Livens coming around the corner, didn't like that positioning, goes right back to the pillar, reconvenes with the shaman, and just really, really good presence of mind from this double cleave. It can be really easy to start tunneling. Maybe that's just me. CC goes out on Akara. He's immediately going to trinket Sank. I like that. So he's not letting his healer have to trade. He's trading his trinket to get that Sank and just stopping that go completely.
Let's see if they can stay on target here, going after the Shadow Priest. They get Dispersion. Pretty hefty cooldown to get this early on here in Tolvaron Arena. So definitely signs of life. But Tana's in a polymorph. Kara the target. Is he going to retreat back to the pillar? Trade Shield of Vengeance. Trying to get out of line of sight away from Rattapie. Tana trying to catch up. Nice fear across the board here by the Warrior Nerd Rage. Totally disrupting them. Now Kara connects. Frosty's down at half. Rattapie's got Avenging Wrath, but it just ended. His healing's going to be limited here. Livin gets stunned up. Rattapie gets stunned up. Frosty's on the run. Run, Panda, run. Trying to get away from the Ret Paladin out in midfield. Having a tough time, though. Still down at half. Big Holy Light comes in from Rattapie. Frosty looks stable. Trying to drag them out in the corner. Looks like Oldness Strikes are just going to switch to the Mage, maximize their damage, try and run that Paladin out of mana as the main strategy here. And I feel like Oldness Strikes are a little bit more confident to push out in midfield on Tolvaron against a Shadow Priest than an Ellie Shaman which could backfire on Blastwave Bros' composition as well. Kara with a nicely timed Sanctuary, removing that crowd control setup. Ratapai is now stunned. They're trying to go after Livin. Livin gets a double Frost Nova. Gets Storm Bolted, though. Now they swap back to Frosty. Frosty on the run again. Gets hit quite hard. Divine Favor is up, but will he be able to get the heal off in time? Holy Light doesn't stabilize Frosty. He got Sharpened Bladed on that big Holy Light. Connects another Devouring Plague to try and get some healing towards himself as well here. Is he going to be able to stabilize? He's trying to purge off Earth Shields. Tana pre-flesh crafting, getting that crowd control immunity for a moment. Now intervene back to reflect the polymorph. Nice play by Nerd Rage, totally shutting that down. Man, Oldness Strikes, I feel like as a unit, they push out into midfield and they all protect each other from whatever could stop them from going down. And that's the main reason they're able to win in these situations that other teams wouldn't be able to in matchups like this. If they can keep this up, I feel like they're in a good position.
Livin has not been living his best life in this game for sure. I mean, Tana has been doing such a good job denying the crowd control in this matchup, and you can tell. I mean, pressure's been on Frosty the entire game. Limited crowd control on Tana. They still have every single cooldown. Livin now into a Hammer of Justice. Let's just look what happens for Livin. He's going to be chasing down Tana right now. Nerd Rage backing him up with some snares. Tana gets to line of sight, and if Livin's not getting crowd control on Tana, likely nobody's going to go down. Although when we did see Method win, they weren't going for polymorphs. They just attacked. I think it's a really important thing to note. I mean, they were literally just winning in a silence, or just winning in a disarm, a psychic horror from Frosty. So maybe just these micro CCs might end up adding up. Kara doing a great job preemptively using the Sanctuary on the silence. Beautifully done there by Kara, and as a result, they didn't have to trade out basically anything besides the Ascendants. That could have been an absolute disaster if he didn't get that Sanctuary off. Oldness Strikes is on fire.
They absolutely are. I love seeing Tana's positioning. Not only is he making Livin's life a living hell, get it? But he also is right there whenever Ratapai wants to get a drink. He's like, oh, here's a totem. How's that totem taste? Oh, here's an earth elemental punching you in the face while you're trying to get that half mana. Because they aren't going for this consistent pressure. Tana's mana is fine. He's chilling. But here we go. Whenever you see that Final Reckoning animation like kind of fall down on these guys, be cognizant of that, because there was a time where Final Reckoning happening on Frosty, no CC on Ratapai, and they had to trade sacrifice. That's how much incoming damage that they need to respect. Kara really, really low here. He's going to catch a heal out of line of sight. No cooldowns needing to be... and there it is. That's the animation I was referring to. Take a gander at Livin's health. If they reconnect onto him, it's a huge amount of damage. Who needs CC when you can just line up your bursts together? And this team moving as a unit is just so key to their success. But at the same time, Blastwave Bros is doing a fantastic job in their triangle formation, forcing this melee to really overextend to get anything done. But I think you're right, Elliot. I think I'd like to see just more damage spam, and maybe it's too late for that, as Ratapai is still hovering around half mana.
Mind controls coming out from Frosty, just trying to slow the assault where Ratapai drinks. Very important that Ratapai drinks in the matchup. Ooh. Tana sneaks in on the right side, but gets polymorphed. Kara's on the run. He stuns Ratapai right before he got stunned. That was a nice play from Kara. Master Spell removes it, though. Maybe they swap the Tana? I don't think so. They're dragging Nerd Rage out in midfield, trying to reposition away from the Shaman, constantly making him cross. They get a full Psychic Scream and a Silence. Nice cross here. Ratapai's charging in. Who is he going to go for the stun? He's actually just choosing to run away. Not able to find the target that he wanted to. Tana looking for a cheeky Hex out of a double cap totem. Tana with great crowd control there, locking down two members of the team simultaneously. However, Ratapai did get some mana. They're popping cooldowns, trying to go for the kill. Frosty greater fades the hit. Polymorphs on Nerd Rage. Tana pre-flesh crafting the crowd control, trying to get back to the pillar now while he's immune. But Card's getting blasted. Huge pressure coming out here. Will they be able to stabilize at 50%? And Tana's in a full polymorph. Kara going to go for the Shield of Vengeance. Mind Games, if that goes off, Kara is dead. They interrupt it with a pummel. They need to stop Mind Games at all costs here. They're just pushing for the kill, even though they're so low on health. Finally, no! He gets absolutely blasted. He thought he was going to be able to get back to the pillar, but nope, he is not. And Livin sends them to the grave, 1-1.
Hey, chat, you awake? Because I know I am. That was insane. I blinked, and he was just gone. Wow. That was awesome.
CPT's just sitting there. Yeah, they really need to stop Mind Games, or else it could be scary. Then Mind Games goes off 40-0. I don't know if that was a Battle Master's falling as well, but really unfortunate there, because although Blastwave Bros won that game, that was not a very convincing win. When we look at the replay of this game, You can see right now, I mean, look at Tana. Every cooldown you could ever imagine. Kara as well has the Divine Shield. We're at 8% dampening. Things are not looking too great here for Blast Wave Bros. Good pressure here on Frosty. He actually had a great greater fade to avoid some damage, but at this point, it's just living. He's going after crowd control. Kara gets a little bit low. There's no CC on Tana. He just doesn't have the throughput to kind of deal with it. And finally, a full polymorph does sneak in. And Kara, they get the interrupt here onto the mind games. But I can't help but feel like this has to be like, yeah,
Wow.
that was
Man.
insane.
What was
He
that?
went from
Man.
that had to be Battle Master. If that wasn't Battle
Rally
Master's
or
Fallen, I
something?
don't know what Frosty's doing, but he's definitely looking good, looking strong on that Shadow Priest.
I chalk that up to just Divine Toll karma. Every now and then we get one too, you know?
All right, well, they're going to be taking that victory here on Tolvaron, potentially turning around for them here in this next game. Certainly curious to what exactly they are going to be doing, but I mean, that one seemed to be a lot closer than it should have been. So my question is here, what do we think Oldness Strikes is going to do next, Super Tees? Do you think this is going to go to Game 5?
Yep. Small map hook point. They're going to win. Then we're going to go to Ashamane's Blast Wave Bros. I think maybe they could lose, so it could be 3-1 Oldness Strikes. But if it plays out the way I'm expecting it, the way it should, Blast Wave Bros should win on Ashamane. Then we go Game 5 Dalaran, and I think Oldness Strikes should take it there. That's my prediction. So hook point
like
Very
next.
specific.
Ashamane's fall after that. They're tied 2-2. Then Game 5, we're going to Dalaran. This is all happening exactly like that.
Okay.
Hope something's
What's it-
not right about that.
Yeah, I hope it's not that clear cut. One thing I do want to point out is that was Blast Wave Bros' map choice, and loser advantage. So that can't feel good. Tolvaron Arena
Yeah.
is kind of like the biggest map, right? Or at least viewed that way, and it's no longer able to be played.
All right, I'm
And
one
so,
for one.
like, if that's one, you are 1 for 1. That's true. It's one of those things where it's like it was a really close game. They had every button, and they still died through it. But Blast Wave Bros needed that win. It really did.
Yeah, this would
Wonder
have been
how
a really...
unholy-
You want to see Nixie go unholy?
Maybe. I wonder how Unholy Death Knight Ret would work. Maybe that would be fun. It probably wouldn't be. It's not as good as a Warrior for sure, but
Still
No,
good though.
It's fun,
That's pretty
fun to
good.
watch, though.
Today's seems like a day for experimenting. So there are no experiments. Okay.
Nope.
Oldness Strikes are going to lock
No.
in, fulfilling
I think they heard
fulfilling
you.
the Game 5 prophecy.
meta.
The Game 5 prophecy from Super Tees here. And it's just going to be kind of the same thing. I mean, Blast Wave Bros, they're basically the way Blast Wave Bros plays this is they're just throwing Hail Marys all game. And hopefully something lands and someone gets dropped. But if Oldness Strikes can... I don't even know. You can't... I feel like I can't blame Kara for how that last game played out. You don't expect Mind Games. I don't know what that was. Mind Game Shadow or Death. It was a Battle Master's falling. Then you can blame him a little bit. Then there's a little bit of greed there. But there's big damage from Blast Wave Bros, and that's what they're going to be looking for. But what I really want to see this game, the one thing I didn't like from Livin in the last game, is I feel like he was way too focused on just going for polymorphs, and there just wasn't enough pressure out. So I want to see some pressure come out, and then the crowd control, the interrupts, they kind of find themselves. But if all that's happening the whole game is you're getting 0 damage out and you're just getting destroyed by crowd control, not a lot of opportunities present themselves, because we've seen this matchup play out and we've seen the Shadow Priest Mage win in literally 3 seconds. All you need is a silence to win the game if your setup is clean. So just pile all your burst of damage, all your burst damage together, get out the crowd control, and I think they can close it out without having to rely on those really long crowd control chains.
All right, well, we're going to find out shortly enough here as these teams get into the game, loaded up into Hook Point. Game number 3, it's Oldness Strikes tied up 1-1 versus Blast Wave Bros, who is going to put themselves on match point in game number 3 here. Oh, look at that little Valentine's Day shot.
Aww, and I love the llama too. That thing is so troll. All right, here we go. Connection onto Frosty. He's basically as far away from this double melee as humanly possible. Horsey goes in, gets a full Hodge onto Ratipi. He's going to sit it for now, but that's going to get the dispersion right away. That was Wing's avatar, so not a bad trade overall, I'd say. But here we go. Can they get anything going on to Kara? Kara dropping down to half into the full Hodge. Any CC for Tana. There's the DB. Can he get the polymorph? Nerd Rage is right there for the intervene into the fear. Looks like Tana's not going to get any more CC from here, and Kara is going to be A-okay to get back onto this Shadow Priest. There's the final reckoning. He's got to be a little scared. Looks like he's going to be A-okay. Ratapai positioned very well there in the corner. I need to go and use that corner on my Holy Paladin more. That corner on this map looks really strong. It's a good position.
Nerd Rage charging at Livin here out in midfield, just attacking whoever's close to Tana. Looks like they want to go back to Frofsu with that Blessing of Freedom. Maybe a little bit of a split. But Kara gets intercepted. Beautiful Sanctuary timing. Big hit on Livin. That Combustion not going to get too much value, only getting the medallion from the Ret Paladin. They're going to need more than that. So working through the grocery list of defensive cooldowns. It's now Kara's turn to attack, going after Frofsu, who doesn't have Dispersion or Fade. This is a good position to be in if your Oldness strikes. Perhaps just able to close it out if Ratapai's not careful. Frofsy dropping into that void form, trying to pump out some big damage. Kara's just charging in, stunning Ratapai, disrespecting the Shadow Priest cooldowns a bit, but catches a big word of glory. Now they intervene back, not able to get the reflect on the poly. Kara stunned up, poly on 10. There's that Mind Games! Scariest moment in the game if they're not careful. Doesn't look like they're able to find enough damage to close it out. Nerd Rage is just hacking away at Livin. Livin gets gripped away from the pillar, not a favorable position. Tana charging in with his team as Ratapai sat down and drank, and that's going to be important. If Ratapai takes those opportunities every time Oldness Strike retreats to drink, that's how they can win on a small map.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's going to be super important, especially as the game goes on. I think you have to take those opportunities early on in the match as well. It becomes really difficult to kind of deal with that consistent damage. So making sure you're topped off on mana as late in the game as you're allowed to is super duper important here for the Ratapai. Hammer of Justice now lands on Kara. Tana just channeling out the Fleshcraft. To avoid that crowd control, pushing into the center field, helping out Kara a little bit, but the full polymorph does land, and now Kara could be in some trouble. Positioning at the pillar once again, just great positioning here by Kara, trying to potentially even deny another drink as Ratapai does sit down. Big burst damage coming in on the side of Blastwave Bros. Nerd Rage and Kara both in a little bit of trouble here. Tana has to trade out the Spirit Link Totem in that exchange in order to keep his team alive, and man, this is the kind of damage you definitely want to see from Blastwave Bros. They're really mixing it up, just hitting multiple targets, just getting out lots of damage. And it's been a struggle so far for Tana to deal with.
He's just running all over the place. They go one side of the map, Frosty just kites the DPS to the other side of the map, Tana constantly. And it's helping Livin get these polys, and he gets another one now, forcing Kara to just kind of be line of sight that whole time. And then they all get Nova'd as well. Still Combust available for Livin, even though that Spirit Link was forced. And so that's something that Kara needs to be cognizant of. But look at his position. He is deep. Frosty getting chopped down to half health here, but he's got buttons for days. Hex goes out onto Livin for the cross CC into the Cap Totem. Great job by Tana, but here's the silence onto him. The Horrify onto Kara. It's going to force the wall at least, and I think as well as an intervene, and it looks like he's going to be able to continue the onslaught on a Frosty and trade out that fade. But here's Combustion. I'm just staring at Tana's health bar. I'm like, where's this CC? Can Livin get it? Doesn't look like he is. Looks like the Combustion really didn't get a whole lot done, but maybe that's not the win condition that they need to rely on, because they still did get that Spirit Link a bit earlier, but there's a lot more buttons on the side of Oldness Strikes that Blastwave is going to have to get through if they want to take this team down before Ratapai's mana is tapped.
Let's see if they can navigate through the gauntlet. Frosty is getting a ton of Shadowy Apparition procs at the moment, moving in on top of Tana. Tana dispelling crowd control with a grounding totem to try and protect it, but gets feared up. Sanctuaried instantly by Kara. I didn't even see the fear icon. Kara was so quick there. Avenging Wrath pop. Frosty gets hit. Down to 10%. And at any moment, that Ret Paladin's cooldowns could just close this game out. They managed to recover here, 30 seconds away from dampening. Tana Fleshcrafts the polymorph, but gets Blink counterspelled into a DB. Hammered on his poly follow-up. Nice teamwork once again from Oldness Strikes, totally shutting down Livin during that moment. They recognize what's the highest threat and totally shut it down. Time and time again. If they keep it up with solid defense, they're looking good here in game number 3 to move to match points. Tana's moving into midfield, trying to get aggressive, but his grounding totem's over. They could swap maybe. I don't think there's a Sanctuary for 5 seconds if they can go in on that. They're going to go for Dragon's Breath. Kara's on the run, trying to line of sight. Ratapai catches them, but actually gets stunned first. Maybe a bit of a mistake here. Livin trinkets and blinks away from the Storm Bolt. Final Reckoning going to connect. Kara's trying to line up some damage, but now he's stunned up. Tana's in a poly. Devastation here as a polymorph sneaks through, and Kara has to trinket. That's more than a fair trade. He's going to line of sight at the fences. Mind controls on Nerd Rage. Frosty's just trying to slow down damage. They need to wait for Livin to reset that Combustion. They really need that as a threat, or the Mind Games are going to find a kill. But if Oldness Strikes can stay on top of Ratapai, he's down at half mana. 30 seconds into dampening.
Yeah, right now, Livin quite far away from using that combustion. A full hex might land. A silence comes in. Who are they going after? They're just actually trying to free Livin from crowd control. Dragon's Breath potentially into full polymorph, but Nerd Rage from downtown leaps over with a beautiful pummel, but he finds himself in a double Ring of Frost. That is your present, Nerd Rage, for making such a beautiful play. You get caught into a Ring of Frost. The Master Spell on the Divine Shield, and now Kara's in so much trouble. What an interesting turn of events that was. Ratify sneaking away, trying to drink. The Nerd Rage will shut that down using the Venthyr Door of Shadows, kind of all over the map at this point. 8% dampening. Ratify's mana is looking okay. He is still trying to go for those drinks, but you have to be very careful. You can fall behind on healing quite quickly at this point in the game.
They just randomly got sacrificed. They're like, hey, Divine Toll. And then that mage was scared. Ratify not messing around. He's like, here, please just don't die on me. We're winning this game. Tana still has that Spirit Link and Trinket available, but because Kara doesn't have the bubble, he really can't push in like he normally would be able to, and you know, get that damage done. So he's kind of sitting pretty, waiting for some more buttons to come back off cooldown and just getting value of hitting whatever's closest and staying with his Shaman on the pillar. It's a slower way of playing, but it's definitely the safer one. And that seems to be the name of the game when you're going up against a composition like this. Ratify's mana is really the bar that they should all have their eyes on at this point, because the damage just doesn't seem like it's nearly what it needs to tap Tana. But here we go. Damage goes out on the Frosty. Kara is a little bit scared here. Oh, Livin blinking in, trying to make a play. He can't get the polymorph off. Kara actually gets out of that DB and gets the kickoff on that. Ooh. Oh no, the full polymorph does land. Kara out in the middle of the map, but it's actually Nerd Rage who's in trouble. No trinket available in that stun. He gets the die by the sword off before that, however. Kara now popping his wings, trying to get aggressive on the Livin. Going to give him that throughput to also off-heal his friend, but it doesn't need that off-heal. He needs the Holy Power into Frosty, chunking him down, forcing to disperse, and just another button off the spell book of Blast Away Bros. They don't have to worry about moving deeper into this game.
Oh, triple crowd control by Oldness Strikes going after Frosty. If Kara can connect here, that could be it for Frosty. But Frosty's turning it around, going for Void Form. Is Tana ready? He's moving up, looking for a Spirit Link Totem, popping down that earthen wall, but it looks like Kara ran out of it. He's trying to line of sight. Nerd Rage intervenes over, trying to reflect, but the counterspell lands. Kara, he's in trouble. Tana, what are you going to do? 1 second left on Polymorph. Gets storm bolted into a hex, denying the further polymorphs. Nice play. Ratify sits down for a drink. Not able to find it. Nerd Rage is blade storming right over towards him. Kara looks to reconnect onto Frosty. Frosty greater fading all of the burst damage here. They swap over to Livin for a moment. They drop a defensive Ring of Frost. Frosty trying to avoid Nerd Rage's attacks with that Ring of Frost. Kara's got Avenging Wrath. They just need to maximize their damage at this point. They've got Ratify on the ropes here. Tana in a good position with Healing Tide down. Stun on Ratify. Nerd Rage Door of Shadows gets counterspelled. At least, I mean, that's out of the way. That's a free hex in the future. You love your warrior to just tank the counterspell for you. That's definitely some major advantages. Now they swap to Ratify as he's the most push forward member of the team. Tana goes for a Fleshcraft. He's got Sky Fury down, like he wants to get aggressive for his team. You're looking for Hex. Hex on Livin. That's a full Hex. Are they going to make the play to close out the game with that Hex? They're choosing not to go for double stun lock at this point. They're not able to do enough damage to really kill him. Now Nerd Rage in a swap. Who's going to save him? Tana Trinkets. Where's the link? Oh,
no. Not looking so good for Supati's prophecy at this point.
That's what I was about to say. I'm like,
Supati's looks as good as that Spirit Link.
Jeez.
Dang, dude. Every single time that happens, it's always like, oh, they had buttons. It's such a hard thing to do. It's a really bad one. That's probably why I could never play this composition at a high level, is because you work so hard, you try so hard, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Yeah.
Sorry. Did I ruin your line?
No, absolutely not. I do really like Kara's build, though. I like that he's going for this like huge amount of burst instead of like the consistent pressure over time and just like the overall DPS. And the reason why I like that is because when you have these windows where you get the cross CC at the end here, and you do like gigantic burst, you no longer can just like, Divine Toll top. You can no longer just, get that one big, Divine Favor heal. You really do need to like pump through some mana spending stuff to keep your DPS alive. And when you get this deep into the game, I mean, look at Ratify's mana. I mean, they had this game in the bag if they just traded and they were able to get it off.
heartbreaking to look at. The Hammer of Justice lands, Polymorph on Kara, silence, and this is what I'm talking about. That
Oh
wasn't
my
even his
gosh.
fault. It wasn't
Yeah.
even his fault. I mean, Tenna maybe could have dropped it, but this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to do anything fancy. Like, just silence and win. That's literally what they did. They just sheep the rat. Oh, the shaman's far away. It's one of the issues with shaman right now is your emergency cooldowns are ascendants, 3 minutes, and well, it's one of the difficulties, I should say. These shamans do have a lot of advantages, but at the same time, your emergency healing is such a long cooldown. So, his only option is to trinket Ascendance if he has it, or trinket Spirit Link, and if he's not in position to drop the Spirit
For
Link,
either of
he
them.
can't really do anything. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. It's just, yeah, he's in the open, winning to silence.
Okay, well, Blastwave Bros on match point here. We're gonna see if they can win this series 3-1 here, heading into the second game. Map choice coming in soon. D-Machine, any guesses on where we're gonna go next?
Where we're gonna go? Well, so it's Oldness Strikes is composite or map choice, right? So they're gonna go somewhere small. They're gonna go somewhere where it's gonna be really hard for Ratify to get a drink. They're gonna go somewhere where they can connect to the target that's gonna be kiting them as much as possible. And so, what do we got left? Do we have Dalaran? I wouldn't want to go to somewhere like Ruins because I do think that the lack of line of sight can sometimes backfire. But it's definitely going to be somewhere smaller where, and it's one of those things where I hate games like that because you leave that game and you don't like leave it with more data. You're like, damn, I got gibbed. You know what I mean? Hopefully they can find some nuance of how they can improve their game, maybe in their positioning or their communication. But it's just so hard, and there's just like a sliver of time. I mean, you saw the Spirit Link animation on top of them as he's dead. It's like, it's one of those where I think that they should be focusing on their team morale, and they should be, focusing up on what their strategy were this whole time. Stick with the same composition, and go for it even longer. It can be really frustrating to lose a game that you feel like you're ahead the whole time, and it's a long game. And it's that type of patience that we can expect from top tier players like this.
Yeah, that's oftentimes what separates people, from like first and even like fifth place. So we'll have to see if they can hold it together here. Going to be going into game number 4 soon. I think the draft process is well on its way, so I'm definitely curious to see what exactly they did choose to lock in. Looks like we're going to be going to Dalaran Sewers, Blastwave Bros sticking with that Shadow Priest Mage composition, Supatees.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change. If they won on that map, then this is really devastating for Oldness Strikes. I almost wonder if they'll try the DK just out of desperation. I don't know if I think it's necessary, but in preparation for the big map, maybe they try the Death Knight and warm Nixie up. But this is match point. They lose, they're out, and they're one of the higher point earners. And Blastwave Bros have a good opportunity, kind of totally mix up the top 8 for those qualifications to the circuit. If I was Oldness Strikes, I would be sweating right now. This is not a comfortable position to be in.
Yep. Okay, 20 seconds left. Oldness Strikes. Let's see what they lock in here. Are they going to put Nixie on that Death Knight? Or are they going to stick with their composition that they have been running? They only have one more game left to stay in this tournament here. This is a lower bracket game, so loser of this knocked out of the tournament, and winner moves on in the lower bracket for another chance to make it up to that finals on Sunday. All right, they're going to be locking in that Ret Warrior once again, Ben.
Yeah, I think Oldness Strikes, for them, it's just about the same thing. Just be consistent. And I don't think they did a bad job in the last game. It's just, it can be really hard on the side of Oldness Strikes when Blastwave Bros is just putting out a lot of damage. They're switching up their targeting. They're switching up the way they get crowd control. Their setups are unpredictable. That's when Tana has to really kind of panic because, they did have answers. With them in the open, Tana's probably don't worry, guys, I have Trinket, I have Spirit Link, we're going to be good. And as he's marching forward, someone just dies and, really, really quickly. So it's that kind of thing. That's why I'm a huge proponent of doing damage, especially against shamans. That's how you find windows of opportunity. If the entire game, all you're doing is trying to go for crowd control on the shaman, that's what the Shaman loves. He can just heal with Riptide and Earth Shield, Wind Shear, Grounding. He's feeling really good. But as soon as you start pressuring someone a lot, that's where the Shaman's like, uh-oh, well, do I have to cast? Am I going to trade out Ascendance? Am I going to Spear Link? And that's when things become a lot more kind of dicey for the side of Oldness Strike. So I like what Blastwave Bros did that last game. I think it's really, really intelligent. And I think if they continue to do that, it's going to be looking good. But you kind of have to feel for Oldness Strikes in this one. That's like the fifth time today where it felt like they just got gibbed. 3 times in the upper bracket, 2 times in the lower bracket, where it's like they're making the trades, they're feeling good, like things aren't looking too bad, and then they lose. So definitely rough, and I have to agree with David D Machine that you got to keep your morale up. You kind of just got to shake it off, just keep playing your game, because if these games play out and they just are a little bit different, they could easily be winning them. So I think just one of those matchups, super volatile, but if they keep playing as well as they are, they have a fair shot at coming back in this one.
Yeah. Pressure is on, gates have opened, and here we go. I'm curious to see how they're going to take advantage of a smaller map like Dalaran Sewers. Rattapie sitting on the stairs right there, and I really love that this Ret Warrior team make these hard swaps. There's the Hodge on the Rattapie. What are they going to get done? Looks like they need to be on the back foot, as Combustion was popped as well as PI from Frosty, but he's the one who's on the back foot. Huge damage lands onto him. He gets life gripped out of there. Combustion gets very little to nothing done at all, and it looks like that opener goes in favor of Oldness Strikes. Take note, Shamans in chat, that is where your Sky Fury should be dropped. That is a hard place to go and stomp that totem. Hodge goes out on the Kara, and he's going to trinket out of it, gets the Sank, but is it going to be enough? He's still at half health here. He's got the wings up, so he's going to be wogging himself for huge amounts, and he continues the onslaught on the Frosty. Full Hodge lands on the Rattapie, and that's the dispersion from Frosty. So far, looks like Oldness Strikes is up for the challenge.
Yeah, swapping to Rattapie now, really just confidence here, hitting every target. Anything that comes close to the blender, it gets chopped and sawed to pieces. Kara now charging in on Frosty, Nerd Rage leaping in. Is Tana going to push with the team? Hiding his Sky Fury again behind that box, min-maxing its effective crit benefit. Frosty's trying to sneak out of mind games. Kara is running away from that. Rattapie's trying to slip in a drink. Even if he gets a couple of ticks there, that's better than no ticks on a map like this. He goes back to full. Frosty gets blasted down from that final reckoning. Huge damage coming from Kara, even at the pillar here. Still hovering at 30%. Rattapie looking to recover with a big Divine Favor heal here. Holy Light back to full. Frosty baiting them. They're not falling for the bait. They swap back to Livin. They don't want to line of sight Tana on the bottom side of Dalaran Sewers. And I like that Blastwave Bros are playing that point of line of sight to try and bait the Shaman off the pillar. Silent stun. This is a scary moment in the game. Tana drops Earthen Wall. Will it be enough? They win share the Mind Games. Mind Games number 2. It connects, but I don't think there's enough damage really here. And they've hexed the mage on Combustion. Man, that is a feels ribbit, man. Combustion right there. That's a feels. Oh my god, he's cap totemed out of the hex. I love when healers do this to mages. Give them a taste of their own medicine.
Wow, what are you saying right now? This is messed up. All right.
Goodbye, Solo.
Yeah, Kara right now under fire. Frosty in a good position, just pulling away from Tana, just pulling away from those interrupts. Livin trying to reset his Combustion, spamming out the fireballs, and now Kara and Nerd Rage kind of, they don't really want to push in. There it is. Door Shadows comes in from Nerd Rage. Livin gets storm bolted immediately. That's super unfortunate for him. Combustion reset will be delayed as a result. About 2 minutes and 45 seconds in this matchup so far. Blastwave Bros up 2-1. This is an elimination series. Keep in mind, Oldest Strikes, they have to strike back here on Dalaran Sewers if they want to stay in this tournament. It's super important. They're a bit behind on points at this point. Top 8 not feeling super secure for them. We'll see what they can get done, but Blastwave Bros looking good so far. Are caught into a Hammer of Justice. Silence on Tana, but there's just no damage to back it up. They just, I feel like they could have played that a little bit better, in all honesty. The silence, as well as the Psychic Horror came in. There was no Combustion, though. If they had just waited a few more seconds, that setup could have been a lot scarier.
And scary setups is the name of the game. I mean, we see how close these series are. I mean, they're dying with cooldowns up. It's just like one global is what's getting these kills, and good positioning. Looks like they're going to swap over onto Livin, and I really do like how they're swapping everywhere. It forces the Paladin to kind of trade or move those beacons around to make sure that whatever their kill target they're about to global has that Save by the Light proc. And when you're not healing a target with that beacon, you don't get that Holy Power refund, and it's just a really big, it's really important to a Paladin, and that's the name of the game. Rattapie, it keeps going and that's their win condition. So I like the pressure they're putting out here, but here's the setups. Another trinket sank from Kara. I love that he continues to respect these goes with that. And the combustion, the reflects of polymorph onto the combustion, and also feels bad man into the shear, and they purged it off. Oh my gosh, they're doing a great job shutting down this fire mage. But at the same time, I feel like one of these goes could force a cooldown of cooldowns from Oldness Strikes if they can just figure out the best way to set up, like you were saying, Elliot. But here we go. Speaking of setup, Hodge goes out on the Rattapie. Frosty, without Disperse available, he's got to be scared. It looks like he's going to be okay positioned really, really far back, and they're going to swap over onto Livin. So even if they don't catch that momentum and catch those cooldowns, they're constantly pressing that damage. Is this going to be the bubble? Hodge goes out on him, silence onto Tana, and it looks like he's going to get the wings off, have the throughput, be completely fine. Nice intervene and rallying cry from Nerd Rage. I think that was rallying cry. Something saved Kara. And it looks like he's going to be able to live another go.
All right, let's see if they can keep going. Rattapie's down below half mana as Dampening kicks in. Divine Toll out there, hitting 2 members of the team. Big Wake of Ashes cracks Frosty. Rattapie in a stun. Frosty just going to Dispersion immediately, reducing all the damage, running away in that purple cloud. Tana's in a Polymorph. They could turn it around here. They don't get another one, I don't think. Frosty interrupted on Void Eruption, stopping him from getting into Void form. Ultimately getting it, though. Mind Games is likely available. If Frosty can sneak it through a Mind Games here and crowd control Tana at the same time, they can easily burst down Kara. That's how they're able to find victory. Here comes the double stun. Where's the Mind Games? Intervene Reflect. They need to bait off the Reflect. He gets feared on it. Kara's still very low. Is he going to have to bubble? Or to Glory? Looks like he's going to be all right. Dispelling that Devouring Plague. Very important utility on the Paladin class. Removing that damage over time effect from the Shadow Priest. The hardest hitting attack. Nicely played there by Kara so far. Now going for that Wake of Ashes, trying to push through and kill Frosty. Rattapie repositioning far away, trying to find any opportunities to drink, but Nerd Rage is just pushing forward. Rattapie mounts up, tries to get back to the pillar. Nerd Rage hits him with a heroic throw. Tana's on his pillar. I don't think Rattapie is going to be able to drink here. There's too much pressure coming up for Kara. Livin is on top of Tana, trying to get a Ring of Frost on the DPS. Frosty's actually in a bit of trouble. Oldness Strikes are trying to push and take it to a game number 5. Rattapie denies it for now, but it cost him a lot of mana to deny it. Almost 10% dampening here. He's at 10% mana. Hammers are down. Kara's and Apolly are swapping over to Nerd Rage. Tana instantly dispels, grounds the incoming crowd control. Line of sighting Livin at the bottom. Stormbolting Livin into a Hex. I love the teamwork of Oldness Strikes to really just ruin this mage's day.
Come on, man. You gotta feel for him a little bit. All right, Rattapie, his mana is not looking good in this game. Oldness Strikes, everything is going everything's going their way. It's looking good. They got the mana advantage. They got lots of cooldowns to rotate through, but this is how every game looks that they've been losing. It's looking good until it's not. So Blastway Bros, they have an opportunity here, a huge hit of damage. Let's see if Oldness Strikes can keep up, the consistency. Let's see what they can do. Hammer of Justice lands on Livin. Big damage coming in from Kara. Looks like Frosty's looking to set up some crowd control. Big combustion here onto Kara. Can they get the Divine Shield? It would be massive if they can, but looks like they are unable to. Trinket from Kara. This is the Ascendance as well. Any crowd control here onto Tana. Kara just pushing forward, trying to really pressure down Livin. Rattapie's mana is just getting lower and lower in the match. They weren't able to get the Divine Shield. This is super unfortunate. The Oldness Strikes, if you look, Divine Shield available. It's going to be the Gladiator's Medallion and Spirit Link. They have all the tools necessary to push forward and try to get a win on this game. But Rattapie has no mana. Can they do it really is the question. Nerd Rage now feeling a little bit afraid. They might just take him down. He gets interrupted. He might get dropped. Tana really struggling to find the heals. And that's what I'm talking about. Damage is king right now. Just try to get out that damage. Pressure whoever you can. And you can just find these opportunities really quick.
It's tough, man. I feel like if they're going to kill Kara or they're going to force bubble, they got to do it when he's in like a stun or something. So something to note, that tank legendary, when it does proc, when matched with a conduit, it gives him a free Word of Glory. It makes it so the next Holy Power spender is free. So not only is he taking reduced damage for 2 seconds, but he also has that Word of Glory to top himself, even if Tana is in CC. So they got to cross CC that, I think, if they really want to force it, or just kind of global through it. But Livin, he's got to be scared at this point, getting chunked lower and lower. Oh, he actually got kicked on Frost there for just a second. That was a scary moment. And Rattapie forced to pop the wings to try to keep him up, and that's just some more mana to spend. Nerd Rage! Oh, he gets the rallying cry. He gets out of there with the heroic leap. Tana reconvenes with him. It looks like he's going to be A-okay for now, but oh my goodness. At any moment, they could just swap to Nerd Rage and just end him, and that's got to be a very scary feeling in a match like this. Blastwave Bros, they need these points. They need to qualify to circuit, and to do that, they need to win a lot more than just this series. So this is an uphill battle. Oldness Strikes, they seem like they have the win condition, as they always do. Rattapie's mana is getting lower and lower, but can they make it happen? CC goes out on a Nerd Rage, as well as Kara. Tana running over to get with his team and to stay aggressive, and that's going to force disperse. Rattapie again, though, even though that's dispersed and he's not taking any more damage, he still has to spend the mana to top him.
Yeah, mana's the main problem here. They got a lot of cooldowns, but Livin's now in a Hex with no way out. He actually blocks the Hex to go aggressive. Tana line of sights the Polymorph at the bottom, finding the Polymorph ultimately. Kara isolated. Can they take him out? Nerd Rage peels with an intimidating shout. Is it enough? Timed well enough, though. Will Livin get another Polymorph? Tana able to win shear it. Nerd Rage is still very low. Maybe a Sparling pre-tremor on the Fear. Nice play by Tana there, breaking up all that incoming crowd control. Still playing on point despite these long matches that they've had to play through. Hex gets trinketed by Livin. Tana jumps off the side again. Livin can't chase him. Blinks into midfield, dragging Kara and Nerd Rage out of Tana's line of sight. Stun on Tana. Tana gets sanctuaried instantaneously. Nerd Rage is still the target, it would appear here. It's match point. If Blastwave Bros can just close it out here, they'll be walking away in the lower bracket to Championship Sunday, knocking Oldness Strikes out, but their mana is totally tapped. They need to make something happen here very soon. They're going to grip Livin, Vulpin, Blink, try and escape. Nerd Rage is still on target. Blessing of Freedom marching forward, going after the mage now. Storm bolted up. Rattapie uses Blessing of Protection to try and stall out. Kara's down at half, jumps off the corner. Frosty repositions. Combustion is available. This Combustion basically needs to get a kill, but every single person on the team has an answer. It would be a throw if this Combustion takes the kill. They need to be ready. There's the Combustion on low health Spirit Link Totem from Tana. He is not letting that opportunity slip through his hands again, but now caught in that Panda racial. And will that be enough to close the game out? Nerd Rage is stunned up. Tana is stunned up. Diamond of the Sword trades cards. Bubble Sanctuaries. It's all or nothing here for Oldness Strikes. They just trade out every priority defensive cooldown to stay on target. They've got Rattapie out of mana, but Mind Games is sneaking through while Tana is silenced. Avenging Wrath is up. Double Dragon's Breath. Livin's trying to stall. Living on the edge right now here. You didn't like? Okay, you like that one. Nerd Rage is down at 20%. Kara down at half. There's nothing left here. Are they really going to pull this off and beat Oldness Strikes on their own map twice in a row? That would be very impressive if they can do so. They're in a good position to do it, but now feared up with no way to escape. Frosty pops Empiric Embrace to try and heal the team, but Kara's got Avenging Wrath. They sacrifice. Now all that damage is going to get redirected into Rattapie, and he has no mana to heal it. I think you just attack into sacrifice and watch him die to dots. Look at that sacrifice damage on Rattapie. I think he's just going to die to the dot. Rattapie can't. Oh, Avenging Wrath proc for him with Awakening. He's still dying to the Sanctum, but then oh my god, that Awakening proc. Kara's in trouble here. 2% health. His Legendary is going to proc. Rattapie's just running around with no mana, hoping that Frosty kills something. Tana is feared up. And Livin is going for a Combustion, gets grounded. The grounding totem's out of line of sight. Livin's gonna get his seed procced, I think. Rattapie is dying to nothing. He's gonna proc. He's trying to close it out. Rattapie gripped up at 1%. It's gripped up at 1%. Nerd Rage leaps over, gets the execute, but Kara's gonna be going down, I think. And we're going to a 2v2.
No.
No.
Whoa. There's the seed.
Wow. That was a ridiculous game. That was so back and forth. I mean, for such a long time in that game, it looked like Oldness Strikes. It was going their way. They ended up winning that match, but man, Blastwave Bros did not make that one easy. Just going all out aggression. All three targets were low. They get every single defensive cooldown in one attack, and I don't think these games are really going to get much closer than this, and we now have a tied series as well.
Unbelievable. Unreal, dude. Absolutely unreal. Blastwave Bros, even though they lost this game, they need to feel proud about themselves because that was an insane effort to try to live there at the very end. The life grip, living at like absolutely no health. Look at him. Look at that health into the DB. Kara trying to push in. He's like, oh, I'll just hit this, this paladin. Oh, joke's on you. I'm out of here. And there's the slam dunk from Nerd Rage, getting that execute. And he also had the sharpened blade to follow it up in case, he finds like the smallest amount of mana ever to heal. But unreal. I really do think that this Shadow Priest mage, if they could figure out a way to coordinate their CC and their goes just a little bit better, I think that this series easily could go to them. But that was an absurdly close game.
Do you think they just don't have the time played with this composition, David?
No, not at all. I think that they're super good. I don't know if they play this comp a lot, but to be quite honest with you, I think that their number one problem is just how disruptive and patient this team that they're facing is. Tana is owning, and even on like a small map like that, his awareness is on point. And it's quite difficult to fully appreciate the type of awareness that these top players have until you watch like games like that where they're like, if they're in the middle of the map going for that grounding, or they're like Radipai's pressing that bubble because he sees that win condition and he knows their win condition. That type of like understanding of the game is just something that you can only find here at AWC, of course.
Yeah, it's so true, and I feel like both of these teams, I think it was you, David, that touched on it before we started this series. All of these players in this series, just absolute veterans, legends in their own right, and you could really see that. It's super evident as we see them face off against each other. Both of them just playing so hard, out of their minds here. Going to be going to Ashmane's Fall. Oldness Strikes not going to be choosing their composition. Ben, do we feel like both of them are just going to lock in what we saw for that last game?
Yep. 100%. I would be absolutely blown away if anyone switches. Oldness Strikes, every single game could have ended like what we just saw, where it's like, oh, they barely hold on, everyone's scared, like they trade out all their cooldowns, okay, then they're gonna win. That's how every game has looked for Oldness Strikes today. Like there hasn't been a game where they just completely throw that I can remember. So yeah, I think it's the same thing. Oh, okay, bro. Not 100%.
Oh, dude, I was with you, man. I mean, I nodded in agreement. I thought that there's no, they just won. Like what?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So,
go ahead.
There was one thing we wanted to talk about. So we saw something kind of weird from Nixie that we've never seen before. He had like a purple AMS on him, and we were kind of speculating on what that was, but it's actually, I think it's a new ruin from Shadowlands for their weapon. So it's a weapon enchant. I do believe that they can use. It's kind of interesting. So I guess I'm just going to read out the tooltip here.
Yeah, please do.
You engrave your weapon with a ruin that deflects 3% of all spell damage, and taking magic damage has a chance to create a shield that absorbs magic damage equal to 10% of your maximum health. When an enemy
all the
damages, yeah. When the enemy damages the shield, their cast speed is reduced by 10% for 6 seconds. So it puts like a mini curse of tongues
like
on them as well.
Goat. Do you remember Mop Goat? You remember Shaman Goat? Are we gonna see DK Shaman and DKs of the Goat now?
I don't know, but
interesting.
that's really strong. I mean, you're just absorbing magic damage. You're reducing their cast speed. You're redirecting spell damage. I mean, that definitely seems good. And I mean, the thing is, it's still so early in the expansion. We have lots of room for experimenting. And I said today was a day for experimenting, and maybe Oldness Strikes is going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what is really exciting about having these guys on a TR. We get to see stuff like this, not something that you would normally see on live. So it's cool to see them sort of play around with all of the options that they do have. So now we can see both compositions here. Blastwave Bros also choosing to stick with that composition here. This could be determining who, this next game, determine who will be moving on to the upper, or the, my goodness, I'm just going to start again. Hold on. Okay. This next game will determine who will be moving forward in this bracket. It's game number 5, Oldness Strikes versus Blastwave Bros. Whew.
Oldness Strike is sitting a lot prettier on points than Blastwave Bros. You know, I think they're like right behind Skill Capped and Method by like 100 points, but still right behind them. It's Blastwave Bros that really need these points desperately. They're right on 8th place. So this is kind of circuit dreams, if you will. And to be honest with you, both wins from Blastwave Bros, though that their survivability, their rotation, their positioning, all extremely impressive, their kills were not convincing to me. So I'm really looking forward to see what these teams do. Everything on the line, match point. Here we go, Sid. Walk us through this.
Let's go. That Unholy Death Knight, is it going to be the trump card here in this matchup to find victory and advance to Championship Sunday? It's certainly a wild card. Are Blast Wave Bros ready for it? We've not seen it until today, really, throughout 2021's competition. So far, so good, with decent damage onto Frofsy, and they'll have that pet utility and this Abomination Limb activated from Nixie, those green slappy hands pulling Livin and Frofsy together and really cleaving them down for the Warrior with sweeping strikes. It's high value AoE damage. I really like that combination. Nixie's doing a good job micromanaging his pets at the Paladin, making sure that he's just spreading diseases and making sure that that Paladin is not drinking or regenerating mana. They want to just hold the team in a chokehold, get a lot of consistent damage out. It's really a battle of completely different strategies, whereas Blastwave Bros are looking for a setup, a 100-0, and they're actually going for it right here. Nixie denies it by interrupting the mind games and dropping anti-magic zone, this purple barrier. Nerd Rage needs to stay inside of it to reduce all the damage from Livin, but he is staying in it, and it looks like combustion is over. So now that they've survived the setup, time to pump out some damage. Here comes that Abomination. Frost Nova hits the Abomination, although it does look like it's going to break out. There's still some damage on Nerd Rage, a bit surprising to see them. Maybe it's Tana on that Shaman just struggling to keep the heals going, even despite being crowd controlled. Nerd Rage is still down at half health at this point in time. This is actually very surprising. I was not anticipating this at all. The Warrior is going to be a lot more susceptible. They don't have that Word of Glory from a Ret Paladin to heal the Warrior, so Tana's got a lot of work to get through here, trying to dodge Livin's Polymorph at the pillar, but silenced up. Stuns are down. Nerd Rage at half. Nixie rotting down as well, but Ratapai's mana, look at that ghoul army just chasing Ratapai and just like poking him to death. Like, we're here, you're eventually going to run out of mana to these ghouls punching you in the face, and if they can stay alive and stall, perhaps they'll find victory.
Yeah, but that's a big if at this point. Nerd Rage running behind the pillar. He was the one that fell when we saw them play against Method earlier on. Nerd Rage getting so low. Tana's going to have to use the Ascendance to actually keep him alive, and that is not what you want. No crowd control. You just are struggling to find the heals with Counterspell available. Ascendance trades out, and this is one of those things. I mean, when Ratapai's out of mana, he's going to be out of mana against an Unholy Death Knight. He's not going to be able to sneak away to drink, but for Oldness Strikes, this matchup is a lot less stable. You do not have the Retribution Paladin. Nerd Rage is not feeling good. Tana gets interrupted. Beautiful Counterspell into Combustion, and Nerd Rage will be leaping away to safety. They actually switch over onto Nixie now, but I have the feeling Nixie will be okay on that Death Knight, using so many different things to make him durable against this wizard setup. And with a Grounding Totem, denies the Polymorph, but a full Polymorph lands once again. Nerd Rage has to run. It's just over and over and over. Crowd control landing. Nerd Rage barely able to survive. There is a Trinket Spirit Link, so Nerd Rage not too afraid. Does a nice preemptive Earthen Wall Totem as well. Big heals coming in from Tana, and Oldness Strikes does manage to hold on. And once again, Ratapai, is he going to be able to sneak away and drink? Nerd Rage leaping over, but he's way overextended right now. He could be very afraid if he gets caught into a Hammer of Justice or something like that. They could take him down. I don't know what happened. The ghouls fell off Ratapai. He recovered some mana. Blastwave Bros are looking good.
He's turn eviling him, man. This giant pudge chasing after him. I guess it's giving him enough time to get those drinks off. But I mean, that's the benefit of the DK, so that can't happen. I feel like this TSG is getting a lot more consistent pressure, but there's just a lot more risk now. That Ret Paladin is such a cushion. It's such a nice, loving hand to help Tana out whenever he gets caught in that CC. But Livin is still absolutely struggling to get anything. I think he's just given up and is just pressing those fire abilities. Here's Combust, big damage on the Nixie. He's gonna go ahead and press that AMS. Horrify over on the Tana. Can they follow it up? Frosty's probably gonna go for a Fear Out, I'd imagine. There it is, but the damage just isn't there. Where's the pressure? Frosty now taking a bit of damage, and Nixie is just completely respecting the CC and AMZing. I feel like you didn't need that. Is Nerd Rage AFK, or is he just in a root? Just in a root. Copy that.
Oh, that shackle on the ghoul for Ratapai to go drink. That could be clutch, the turn evil and the shackles, but there's a lot of pets. Ratapai just feared a different ghoul, and then there's another ghoul just whacking away at him, so it's going to be quite difficult to navigate this. Grip on Frofsy here, Mind Games attempt. If Frofsy gets Mind Games off, that could be devastating if they go after the Death Knight. Bit odd to attack the Death Knight if he's wearing a tank rune enchantment on his weapon, but they are still doing quite a bit of damage to him despite that rune enchantment absorbing some hits here. Tana sits through Polymorph. Nerd Rage looks to be the main priority target. Down to half. Tana is silenced. Nerd Rage in trouble. Is he going to trade? Dampening has just begun. Oh no, double stun lock. Who's going to
so
trigger?
low.
They need an answer. There's
Boom.
no response. Blastwave Bros close it out 3-2.
Unreal.
Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable.
definitely at that point, you kind of have to feel for Tana. We will see it in the replay, but it was a psychic horror, and Livin was basically just sitting there waiting to Dragon's Breath. If he trinketed, he would have been met with a Dragon's Breath. And if he waits, he's met with a Dragon's Breath either way. And I don't know if he was in range to actually drop off the Spearling Totem. That was just a nice setup from Blastwave Bros, capitalizing on that situation. And I mean, that has to be tough for the side, for the